Hey everybody, Texas Trucker Airlines, the Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. It is Monday night, a little after 6 o'clock, surprisingly home somewhat early, so figured I'd come out here before the Mavericks and Spurs play and crank out another tool haul. This one will be, I believe, number 23, and it is going to be Stahlwille. That's if you're a fan of Stahlwille, stay tuned, because that's basically all that we got. Now, since this was a tool haul from KC Tool, we have got the bit of things right here. Now this one's interesting. We've been getting 13 every time. This is number 15. It is a T30 by 25 millimeter Torx titanium coated insert bit. Now once again, we can logically assume, as given as many number 13s that are T20s, we could assume number 14 is a T25. And all the duplicates I've had, if they were T25s, that would be fine, because I would actually use that. That said, we've got a catalog. Down below in the description, you will see a link to the Lone Star Mopars forum. It'll be the KC Tool Bit of Things checklist. I'm cataloging them as best I can. If you have one that is not listed and you make a comment, I will get it added to the list. That way people can go in and kind of see what they lack, what they're missing. Sometimes, you know, you might not have a clue. You can sometimes fill in the gaps and assume what should be there. But we are cataloging that. Also, the thumb, it's slightly doing better. The nail is gone. These gloves that you'll see me wearing are from Alpha. If you like them, if you're interested in what they have, got a video on it. Similarly, alphagloves.us, you can use the discount code Lone Star and save yourself a pretty good chunk of money. I've actually had some friends buy these as gifts. We've got several of you have commented and said you ordered the gloves, you got them in, and you like them. I have zero complaints. Really cool product. Definitely recommend you check them out. But that said, we're going to move on here, and we're going to get started with some kind of boring stuff, but I bring it back for good reason, because I like it, and it's inexpensive. So what we have to kick things off is going to be right here. This is going to be the Stahlwille Ballpoint Pen. You've seen me bring this sucker in before. Nothing fancy. The price on it is $218. The Gedore, if you're looking to go that route, is a little cheaper. They both write really well. They both write in blue, which is a big perk for me. That's what I personally prefer. And it's just kind of cool to have around the shop. I use them all the time, and I've kind of now got them equipped at various locations, so I don't have to run around and hunt for them. So that's what that is. Again, brought it in before. Probably not the last time I'll do it. Right here, I cannot tell you how nice these are. This is a Stahlwille key tag. It's got the Stahlwille logo on one side. Note that it's in red, and that's for visibility. Also mimics what you would see in the aerospace industry, because we've got remove before flight. Kind of if you've got a fast streetcar or dedicated race car, you might have a pin that says remove before flight on your parachute. You'll also see this in aviation. But do I use those? You bet I do. That's why I keep buying them. And right here, I've got keys for toolboxes and cabinets and all kinds of stuff. And if you're curious why I like it, number one, it's a quality stitch. Some of these stuff, like you'll see merch from people, and they're like really bad quality. But this one's actually made well, and the thing is, it sticks out really well. So case in point, if I was, say, cleaning a rear axle, and I go outside in the grass to do it, and I've got my keys in my pocket or clipped to my belt or whatever, and I'm running the air compressor, and I've got a face shield, a dust mask, all this stuff, if those keys fall out of my pocket, I can find that a whole heck of a lot easier than I can just find a piece of metal in the ground, which is what a key is when it drops in the grass. So whether it's grass, whether it's a shop floor, a table, anywhere in a workshop, driveway, whether you're on dirt, caliche, asphalt, concrete, crushed rock like I've got here, that shows up so much better than a key, and that's why I keep buying them. So up next, this is kind of something that I brought in because I was concerned with what I had. And full story on this one, I was changing over on the Challenger from the Moroso spec catch can lines, which were like these ugly brass fittings. They work fine. You know, they had the thick 5/8 heater hose, which is great. It works, but it doesn't look as good as what I put on, which was, you know, braided AN lines and some polished nickel fittings with the blue. But I didn't want to just take that off, you know, and like throw it away. I wanted to pull the fittings in case I needed them and salvage the hose in case I needed it, you know, like roadside repair type stuff. That's where these came in. And this, I think we might even have in a video either from Summit or Amazon a long time ago. This is Performance Tool. I've had some of their stuff that's been great. Some of it has sucked. And I hadn't really used these much. It's just a hook and pick set, right? And so these are the two that I primarily used. It literally was two sides, okay, of like 5/8 ID hose with a brass fitting. That was it. That's all that was. And I felt numerous times like these were going to snap. And you can see the number it did. Keep in mind, 5/8 thick rubber heater hose, which is soft, and then a brass fitting, okay? It's not like we were subjecting these, you know, to the ends of the earth and back. They did hold up, but I was not super confident with them in this scenario. Now, I've done other things, just simple line removals, and I pulled them off and they looked mint. You couldn't even tell they'd been used. This aged them considerably, and I didn't have much faith in them. So what I decided to do, I was looking around on KC Tool who had hook and pick sets, and Stahlwille came up, right? The key tag price, by the way, before I forget, $2.28. So you're looking at like $4 for some novelty things that have function and purpose in life. This right here, though, is a little bit more than that $4. It's going to clock in at $11.36, which is a little pricey, I'll admit. It is ST77101000, or their part number 13,000, straight hook, right? And there is a set of these that you can purchase. However, it's one of those things like my Gedore punch and chisel set. You actually save money getting them individually. So if you like what you're about to see and you want the full set, you could buy them individually and somehow save money, which doesn't make sense to me. That's kind of not the point of having a set. I guess from the manufacturer or retail standpoint, you know, like you think, oh, people will buy the set and we'll make money. But I don't know. It seems like they need to adjust the price on those. That said, I'm kind of glad that I just bought one of these, and there is a good reason for that, because if you note, you know, we've got like what I consider a hook and pick set right here. This was an 8-piece set, so I've got like 4. You've got the hook, you got the 90, the 45, all that stuff, and then the straight. And then your other 4 are the same things, but in a smaller size. My natural assumption with Stahlwille was this is going to be some super awesome tool. It's going to be the big one. It's going to be meaty. It's going to be beefy. It's going to be designed to do everything and anything. And are you ready? It's kind of dainty. It's on the small size. I expected something more like this. Not necessarily something like this, which is kind of what that is. It's in that size range, if you will. The weird thing, they were like the only company I could find that sells hook and pick sets, at least through KC Tool. And the set, I assume, would all be the smaller size, which there are advantages to that. You know, it's going to be easier in confined spaces. You know, there's some cases you might not be able to fit this where you need it to go. This is going to be smaller and obviously have advantages in that case. It's also going to have some limitations, given, you know, the shaft size, the diameter may not be quite as strong. It looks really good. It's just I kind of thought I'd be getting something more like that as opposed to our top little small friend up there. This is their classic handle you should be familiar with. If it looks like there's lint and dust on that, there is. Just like the Philo Ergonics, these things pick up everything. Now, if you're using a glove, it's a moot point, but if you bare hand stuff over time, especially as that rolls around in grit and grime, it might start to bother you, but it is worth noting. It looks really good, and I'm sure that the steel is going to be a superior quality over what we have from China here. So the bottom line is I'm just going to have to use it and see how I like it. But be aware, if you are purchasing this, if you're purchasing the 90, the 45, whichever one of these individually you want to try out, I believe you'll be getting something in the small variety, which again, that is not what I expect. I figured this would be the bigger size, but right here it's going to be super hard to see, but you'll think, oh, what's that black scuff? That's actually the part number 13,000, and I think they're orienting that's straight. It looks like just a straight black line to me. If I had another one in here, I assume we would have like the 45 or something on it. Could be mistaken, but this is a deal where I just wanted to bring one in, see what I thought of it, see how I liked it, and I figured this would be the one that I would use the most, and I can work in tandem then with these. I can make this one kind of the leverage and that the guinea pig, or we may very well wind up bringing in the other 3. Case in point, though, This thing is filthy. Now, I have shot long ago the Stahlwille screwdriver showdown because there's just 2 of them, you know. But this thing just kind of sits in the stand and gets used somewhat sparingly when I feel like using it. And I don't know that you can see it, but there is just so much grit on there. It's like I just ran my hand over a sand dune or something. Now, keep in mind, here in Amarillo, that's kind of what we have. If you're in a super dry or super moist, damp, humid environment, maybe you don't have these issues. But anytime the wind blows, there's dirt here. And it picks up on these in the phyllo handle, so that is something worth noting. But if I could get this set in a larger size, say scaled up to that from Performance Tool with this size of a handle, I would love that. I would absolutely love to see them introduce that, particularly since it's kind of hard to find hook and pick sets from German tool manufacturers, at least over here. Maybe they're well hidden, maybe they're not stocked, maybe people just don't even attempt to buy them. It could be a numerous myriad of things, but with their catalog, I was unable to find this in the catalog even. It is a 2018, maybe it's a new edition, I don't really know. Something else I would love to personally see, the 3K line, okay? That, to me, I like that handle quite a bit better, actually. And I think it would be a great choice for a hook and pick set. So, but, like I said, you know, this should be a way better quality tool. And, you can kind of feel it, you know, when you pick them up. And the main thing, though, I think is going to be in the metal. It's one of those things, you know, like when you're accustomed to dealing with this stuff, you can just kind of feel the difference. But this is knurled right here. That would be like the one thing that would be different between these. They're very similar handle sizes on the back end. But bottom line, I'll just have to use it and see what we think of it. But that's what it was. Again, there is a 4-piece set. If you want that set, I would double check the prices because you might be able to go in and pick them up individually and save yourself some money. So, as I told you, this whole thing was going to be Stahlwille based. I was not joking. You know, I just had an idea. I wonder if we can magnetize that. Well, you know what? Before we get too crazy, I also realized I forgot to pick these up, the little glove tabs from Hazet in the previous one. So right now, none of that stuff that should be magnetic is being picked up, right? Let's grab the old glorious seafoam green, which I commented on it. I didn't want them to change the color. I kind of thought it was cool. It looks like something from the 60s and 70s. Now these Wiha magnetizers are black. Exact same design, but black. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to run this thing through here. And I want to see if we can pick something up. Hey, so we found another purpose for this thing. If we were to, say, drop something really small, or maybe we were, I don't know, having to drill out broken intake manifold bolt and something was getting dangerously close to the valley pan, we could conceivably come in, you know, and pick this up. Now, this would work great with metal shavings and chips, of course, is what my logic is. Granted, if you've got aluminum heads or plastic intakes or something like that, you might be up a creek. So we'll go ahead and demagnetize that. Must have to run her through a couple times. But anyway, that is a nice little selling point there, I guess, if you need another use or another way to justify this purchase. But same handle style, marked on the end. It is what it is. We'll see how we like it. I do feel like it will be better quality, or it should be. Now, the final item is the big item, and it's going to take some time, and it's kind of a sad item as well. We'll get into that in just a second. But right here, if you take this part number, or if you try to look it up by the number/number, you're not going to find it. And, this was Tool of the Day at KC Tool back on October 19th. And they said when these are gone, they're gone. And they weren't joking. It is literally gone. If you go and enter this onto their website or search for it, you'll get the page, but then you'll go there and it's just gone. This is from Stahlwille. This is their 1312 combination spanner set, right? Part number was ST 5286-6526, and it is nowhere to be found. So it's not even in the catalog, the 2018 catalog. So I don't know if this was an older set and they phased it out. I don't know if this is like more geared towards the American market and they just got rid of it. I honestly can't tell you. But I do know that if this is something that you like, you can get something similar with fewer wrenches. You can get something similar with more wrenches, but you apparently can't land this particular set. So if you recall, and you're thinking, wait, I've seen something similar to this you brought in on the channel. It was from Stahlwille. Wasn't it double open-end wrenches, right? That is correct. That would be their motor tin, the tin, if you will, from Stahlwille. Indicates that we've got an open end on both sides of the wrench. This is your classic, traditional open end, close end. This would be what they consider the 13. And that's why this would be 13 slash, what was it, 12, right? And that is nowhere to be seen. So it's very, very lightweight for the number of wrenches that are in here and the quality of them. This is absurdly light, I'll say that. It's probably about the same weight as that tape measure, and that's saying something. So let's go ahead and open her up. Check this out. I obviously have not taken a look at these yet. I'm gonna fold this over. Super, super nice, impressive pouches from Stahlwille. They seem to know what they're doing with these. Obviously, we've got the roll cover. You've got Made in Germany stitched here in the upper left-hand corner. The bottom right of the front flap, you've got the traditional classic Stahlwille logo. While this sucker is open, and while I'm thinking about it, let's get some rough measurements for you. Now, keep in mind, this is probably going to translate better to metric, but we're going to roll with what we see. So 21¼ wide. The height, when closed like this, 11½, and then the thickness on it is minimal. I mean, for having this many wrenches, it is truly minimal. So we're going to flip this sucker up, and let's actually, as I bump into everything awkwardly, use our tape measure just to hold that down. So this is obviously where I think things would fail, the mesh. I'm thinking, you know, the ring here might hold it, but if you're constantly in and out, or particularly, you know, if you're working on something dirty and you've got, you know, like rusted metal shards or small fragments that are sharp, going up and down on this, you know, when you put it back in and then take it out for the next job, I think that's where you'd see issue. Bottom line, you can alleviate that to some extent by just cleaning the tool before you put it away if you're going to make use of this wrench roll. Now, if we come in and we do the math, we're going to go left to right, obviously, big to small. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's again why this was the 13-12 set. You got 12 pieces from their 13 line. I know it's confusing, but again, let me grab this and kind of showcase what we've got. This, when we drop it down, is our 10/8 set, right? And even though that's the classic Stahlwille logo, this has their motor 10 wrenches in it, which is going to be double open end, as you see here, 12 and a 13 essentially. There are 8 wrenches available in this set. Now, what trained eyes might notice is this differentiates itself from the front of this wrench roll by fact of 10/8 being stitched. If you recall just moments ago when we opened this up or had it in the packaging even, there's no 13-12 on there. That kind of makes me question, you know, how long they've made the decision to just go ahead and get rid of these or what exactly. But again, this is going to be our motor 10. It's a 13 and a 12. So we're going to come in here. The first one we pull out is going to be their 13. Now, what Stahlwille refers to their 13 series wrenches as would be open box. This is going to be very similar to what you would have, you know, your first tool set, your Craftsman, maybe some starter stuff from Home Depot, Lowe's, Harbor Freight. It's nothing too crazy. Now, look how thin that is. Isn't it glorious? I certainly think so. It does have a special drive we're going to talk about. In fact, we're just going to read the catalog on these suckers. The open end. These wrenches feel amazing in hand. I can say that. And just the lightweight of this thing. You would think that this was like a toy. You would think it was a non-functional wrench that was just like for modeling or display purposes. But that's because people have become adjusted to and acclimated to thinking, well, hey, you know, if it's strong, it's got to be heavy. And while there is a lot of truth to that, there also comes the flip side where when you spend more money, you have something stronger that weighs considerably less. You can kind of think of that as like titanium or carbon fiber. We can come in on the Duster or the Charger, I could build like a rear seat divider, and we can make it out of, you know, just typical, you know, sheet metal, right? And it's going to get the job done. It'll be a firewall. It'll be there. It'll, you know, vapor barrier, whatever. But seal it off, make it look better, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be heavy, okay? We can come in and we can do the same thing with aluminum, and it's going to be much lighter weight. Then we can come in, we could carbon fiber it, we could use titanium. It's going to get lighter and stronger as you go in most cases, and this is kind of the closest example off the top of my head I could think for that reason. Now, I guess we'll just jump into the catalog, and I'll kind of leave those there for you to enjoy. But this set, let me double check here. We're going to have 19, 17. We're going to skip 18. We're skipping 16. We've got 15, 14, 13, and 12. We have 11. We've got 10. It's not missing. We've got 9, 8, 7, and kind of cool, we have a 6, which is pretty small for these things to go. But what I want to do now is open up the catalog. This is one of the reasons I got the catalog, so we could talk about this stuff, right? And gonna set my pin down right here. We're in section 2, their spanners, right? And we've got double open-ended, which that would be their motor 10. We've got the combination spanners, page 80. So we're gonna flip over here, but before we do, conventional spanners, right? They're saying that whenever force is applied, which we can actually see here in this infographic, this would be your standard spanner. So if we had a Craftsman or a Husky or whatever, obviously we've got a load where we're anchored onto the bolt. We're gonna, put torque and apply it and tighten, loosen, whatever we're doing. But note that right there, that's where the biggest load is. Now, typically with most wrenches, what throws you off is that's pretty fat there, right? It gets really thin with that double T profile, but this section here is kind of fat. It's almost as wide, a little bit wider than the actual fastener would be. So if we had a 13 millimeter head here, note that we're going to taper down, and that's actually wider than the fastener. So where this red, and where you see red, it's going to be high stress, right? And figure 1, that's going to be what your conventional wrenches would generate and yield. Figure 2 is Stahlwille, and see how that's completely alleviated the red. It's got so much more material. We're actually coming in, and that is not stressed. So, they are drop forged from a high-grade specialty steels. They have optimum hardening in continuous furnaces with no scale buildup or skin issues. They are gently quenched in oil, light and easy to handle. This is a big one. Until you've picked these up, you can't really explain it better than that, and it's something you really need to feel firsthand to appreciate. High resistance to bending and low weight thanks to Stahlwille's typical double T profile. That's going to be where you see it recessed, the meat's gone in the middle of the wrench, because there's no stress, there's no workload that's exerted there where it would be a point of failure. So we can come in, shave that, mill it, in this case forge it, with our dies and everything, and actually save weight. It also feels really good in the channel with your thumb. But it's a snug fitting, skin friendly surface thanks to their rounded finish. And then the key benefit when tightening and loosening screws: tougher than any bolt thanks to the forged double hex, which again you can kind of pick up on the infographic there. It's thinner than conventional rings, that'll allow you to work in tighter spaces. And it's higher than standard nuts, preventing the spanner from jamming on the nut. And then right here it's got the quality assurance. The double T profile you can see here, that's kind of, think of like an I-beam, but of way better quality and a smaller scale. That's sort of what we see there. To them, it's a double T, right? You got T1, T2, that's kind of like an I-beam, essentially. But hey, it is what it is. And then right here, you can actually see the open jaw spanners in oil. Now, where people start to complain about stuff is if you're accustomed to the classic Americana stuff, right? You want a high luster chrome finish. You want it to, see your face when you stare into it and looking back at you. That's what people associate with quality. Now, there are some issues with that. They're all very minor. It kind of comes down to personal preference. In terms of aesthetics, I actually prefer a matte chrome like this. Not the norm, I know, but it's just personal preference. The other thing, where those super well done wrenches, even like a Nipros wrench, we can throw Japan in here, right? You bring those in, it is honestly like a mirror quality. So your Snap-on, your Mac stuff, it's gonna be polished up crazy. Now, Where that becomes an issue, aside from like smudges and fingerprints you have to clean all the time, which is not an issue here, haha. It's just simply a deal where you can slip on that a little easier than you could with, say, this, because there's almost like a texture to that. Again, it's one of those things, even if you just buy one wrench, whatever you use the most frequently, some oddball thing that you just need like for very limited uses, bring one in and give it a go and see what you think of the weight in comparison to what you're used to. See what you think of the texture in comparison, and throw it down beside some of your favorite other wrenches and see, do you really hate the matte chrome, or is it something you could adjust to? Now, personally, as stated, this is what I would prefer. Nipros, I've not brought in one of their wrenches. I would like to at some point. That sucker is legitimately going to be like mirror chrome plated. The Capris I've got are probably the closest thing I have to like a full-on fancy chrome. I prefer the matte. It's one of those things. It's personal preference. You like flat black or you don't type of a thing. You like chrome or you like painted bumpers. I'm the type that would err to the painted bumper side. I prefer matte chrome. But before I ramble on too much here, I want to open this up. We've got our motor tin here, the double open end. When we flip the page, we've got the 12s if you're interested in that, in case you need to know they exist. This is our 13. This is the combination spanner that we've got here. As you can see, it's open box, and then of course the size. And coming down, when we take a look at the sets, you can typically find the set, right? And this will be a 1312. It is not even listed in the catalog. This is a 2018 catalog, so I don't know when they decided to phase these out. I don't know if these were like some that were sitting around for an eternity. I honestly don't know, but I knew that for the price point of $120, getting 12 Stahlwille wrenches, which averages out to $10 a wrench, plus the wrench roll, which I knew was pretty good quality, I felt that was a pretty solid deal. Now again, this was kind of just so I would have all the sizes. You double open end, you double your size count, right? So if you had 12 wrenches here, you'd have 24 sizes. Case in point, we'd have like a 5.5 with a 6, and we would have a 20 with a 19, something along those lines. That's great, that's fine and good, but I generally use the back end, the boxed end of a wrench, and so this is a very, very much needed item for me personally. One other thing I want to highlight is right here. You've heard of all the flank drive and everything like that. What Stahlwille has is the AS drive. The rings of the Stahlwille combination spanners and double-ended ring spanners are equipped with the AS drive profile. This permits high transmission of forces to the lands of nuts and bolts without damaging them. Sounds like a place you'd go, but it could also be attributed to, you know, the corners, not the exact hex edges. No longer will you have to worry about stripping the corners of nuts and bolts, or what that equates to is also us slipping. So let's say that we are trying to break free an exhaust manifold on a 440 we're going to build, right? If I come in and I've got my, we'll just say, old school Craftsman, there's a good chance that whenever I'm coming down on something that is just seized and I'm trying to break it free, if that rounds the nut off, our box end is going to slip, and guess what? I smash my hand into the side of the block, or back into the transmission or the stand or whatever we have behind us. Because as you know, when you're bearing down on something with force and something gives, you keep going. You know, it's that old theory of the laws, right? An object in motion tends to stay in motion until you ram into something, and then it stops, you know? And that's why these impact gloves are so nice. But it's not even listed, and you can see here that little side profile. Let me turn it this way for you, where it says 13.9. This should be a 13.12. It's not even on the wrench roll, which is kind of strange because we know it should be. But let's grab some of these so you can kind of take a look at them. We'll go with a 19 just because it's the biggest in this set. Everyone I have talked to that is overseas, the resounding opinion from people is that these are pretty much one of the best wrenches you can buy. They're one of the best wrenches you can get. They're strong, they're durable, they're long lasting. It's basically a lifetime wrench, and that is something that you can be proud to own and have in your arsenal and feel confident using. So right here, that's going to be their AS drive that we talked about. And again, I don't have much metric stuff here. It's all on the cars. But it's one of those things where it's, and again, you know, this is kind of a technology that's developed in recent years. Even the Husky wrenches, you know, have something similar. This has nothing special, nothing fancy, you know, on the open end, but the boxed end, they have spent time researching that and developing it. The open end, it's just a deal where instead of necking down, you know, to the stem of the wrench, we do that very gradually there. And again, if we had the head of the bolt here, see how there's more material? That's where they found things to be stressed. That's how they reinforced it. How do they make it so light? There's no stress here in the handle. That's why there's a valley. I mean, if I had oil here, we could literally dump it down, you know, and see how much we could fit into that. But the bottom line, this is a 19 millimeter wrench. It's kind of a long wrench, and there's no weight there. I mean, it is ridiculous how light that is. This flashlight, which is a cheap flashlight that doesn't even work, is a little bit shorter, actually, and it has got significant heft to it. This does not. These are fantastic little wrenches. And now, just kind of for comparison's sake, let's grab this little tiny number 6. Which, again, it is cool that it goes down that far. A lot of times, you know, it's like 8. That's where you stop a set. But you wouldn't even know that's in your hand. You know, like I could be asleep and someone could drop that in my palm and I don't even think I'd know, unless it was super cold. Then I'd probably wake up and slug you. But, you know, assuming it was a warm wrench, that's like negligible. You wouldn't know it was there type of a thing, which is bizarre when you think about it. Case in point on this valley, look at that. That's the 6 on the 19, man. That is some pretty crazy stuff. Sadly, this is a deal where if you want these, you cannot buy this set. It is not available. It is gone. It's no longer in existence. I will link to it anyway. I will try to remember to put a link to maybe a set slightly smaller and a set slightly bigger. The main thing on these, I love them. They are pricey. I would advise you wait for like a sale, a promotion, or better yet, a tool of the day scenario. At that point in time, you can pick these up. You know, I realize you might think, well, you could have bought that for, you know, less than $10 anyway per wrench when you're that small of a size. Possibly so, but, you know, something like when you're getting the 19, the 17, the 15, and the 13, averaging out to $10 a wrench, I think we did pretty good. So the main thing here, we've got our double open-ended, which gives us a huge versatility. But here we've got just the traditional classic boxed end combination wrench. So I'm ecstatic about the purchase, excited to have it here ready to use now. We will be doing some comparisons later on. They do have a number 14 that's going to have a slightly different box end offset, if you will. We'll cover that in a future video. But the bottom line, this would be sort of your run-of-the-mill, just like your Sears, Home Depot, Lowe's, Harbor Freight wrenches would be laid out. That would be what they're spec'd to be. And I think we got a pretty solid buy on them. So we picked those up. We've got the ballpoint pen. We've got our key fob, if you will, or key tag, whatever you want to call them. And we got the tiny little pick, which I wish it was larger, but, you know, I'll give this sucker a go, see what we think of it. I'm glad that I brought one in and not the set, whether I would have bought them individually or not. I think this will be better than what I have. It's just going to be on the small side. So this will work well for a lot of things. For something like a radiator hose, or, you know, a water pump outlet, I might prefer something larger. You know, I'll just be straight up honest with you. But bottom line, I'm going to use it and see what it does, and we'll ultimately at that point in time decide what we want to do. So that said, I do hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned a little something here. If you have used Stahlwille wrenches, what is your favorite? What do you prefer? Do you like the 13s? Do you prefer the 14s? Are you going to come in and tell me that the double open end is the way to go and that you would never have a combination wrench? Are you going to be someone that says, man, you know, combination wrenches are okay, but you should have got double box end. That's the way to go in life. Are you going to be some super offset person? Let me know what you prefer, what you have used, and how you think it compares. If you're someone that's used the Open Box 13 series from Stahlwille, and you also have Snap-on or Mac, or maybe you've got Hazet or, you know, Gedore wrenches, which one is your favorite? What do you prefer and why? That would be what would help people out the most. But like I said, pretty happy with what we got here. I think we got a great value on it. And honest to gosh, I do like those pins. That's why I keep buying them. So with that said, I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a comment. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All three will be at Lone Star Mopars. Once again, alphagloves.us. Use the code Lone Star. Save some money. It's a pretty good chunk, I will tell you that. And with that said, thanks for watching. I've got a couple more things I want to try to get done here in the shop tonight, and I will catch you back here in the next one.